With the recent reveal of Greenbull, there's been a lot of talk about the Admirals lately, specifically around their power level and how they stack up against Yonko. While that is interesting, it's not really my forte, and since we're about to enter the final saga of One Piece, I thought it was a perfect time to talk about their future role in the story, as well as where I think they'll end up. So I'll go over the current 4 Admirals, so I'm definitely including Akainu, Sakazuki, one by one, and then I'll just give my general opinion of them at the end of the video. But with that being said, let's hop right in. First, I'd like to talk about Kizaru because I really don't have any opinion on him, or I don't really have a hold on where I think he's going to go further in the story. Aside from Greenbull, who has just recently been introduced, he's definitely the most unexplored, so there's definitely still a lot of mystery behind him. Since the post-time skip, he's kind of been portrayed as Akainu's right-hand man, so I wouldn't really be surprised if he played a huge role, especially in regards to the final battles since we're coming to the end of the story. I definitely think this is his time to shine. If he's going to show us what he's truly made of, now's the time to do it. So having him fight maybe some high-ranking members of Blackbeard's crew or the Revolutionary Army would be a good idea, but eventually I think a good matchup for him would be Sanji, just because of their similar fighting styles. And I know a lot of people agree with me on this one, and even the One Piece anime had them kind of clashing in one of the openings back, I think, in Dressrosa. So it's kind of been set up already. Honestly, I don't really know where Oda can take him since we know so little about his character. And to be honest, since we're so close to the end of the story, recently Oda had an interview with the mangaka of Detective Conan, and he said he's aiming for 3 years left of the story. So at this point, I'd rather Oda use this time that we have left on other characters such as Akainu, Fujitora, or Greenbull. But if Oda is able to use the little time we have left of the story to give him a satisfying story arc, I'd be really happy with that. And him being one of the original Admirals, I definitely think he deserves it. And as for where he'll end up at the end of the story, honestly, depending on who he fights, I don't think he makes it through to the end of the story. I don't really see a place in him in the world that is coming after Luffy finds the One Piece, after the revolution goes through. But if Oda did want to leave him alive, I would be fine with him going to some random island and basically just being a hermit, enjoying life the way he probably would have liked it this whole time, because it seems like he doesn't really care for doing much of anything. He just likes to do things on a whim. But yeah, that's basically all I have for Kizaru. So let's move right into Greenbull. With Greenbull being so recent, there's definitely a lot of hype surrounding him. And I don't really think right now is his time to shine. I don't think Oda is going to pull someone in at the end of the arc and have this be their main story arc in the grand scheme of things. But I'm definitely happy we finally got to see him, and I hope he does get us to know him a little bit more. Because for the other Admirals, we've basically had whole arcs where they've been a main character in. You know, Fujitora played a pivotal role in Dressrosa. Aokiji played a pivotal role in Water 7 and Enies Lobby. Kizaru was in Sabaody. And Akainu had a huge role in Marineford. So I'd much rather him have an arc where he kind of is there as a main antagonist or some sort of force that complicates however the Straw Hats go about their next arc. And I'm assuming it's a next arc because I don't think we have too long before the end of the story where there's going to be a lot of characters to focus on. And if he is getting his main role at that point, he won't get a lot of focus because of how many characters Oda has to, give panel time to and whatnot. I will say I really love what Oda has done with him so far. I think it's definitely a good thing that there's a character more like Akainu now, because before, you had Kizaru, he's pretty unpredictable. I don't want to say lazy because he did do stuff, but he's unpredictable. Even in Marineford, you'd see him kind of going ham and then he'd draw back and not do anything for a few chapters. He really didn't have any full-on fights during Marineford. He just kind of had a few clashes and he stopped a few things from happening, whether it's stopping Marco from getting involved, destroying the key, shooting Whitebeard and stopping him from, I think, attacking Akainu, something like that. But yeah, he definitely played more of a support role during that time. But yeah, back to Greenbull. I just really hope he gets his own arc. Not entirely his own arc, but an arc he plays a pivotal role in. Definitely because his character adds a lot more suspense. You can't really just hope that he'll, let you slide like Aokiji would, or maybe troll around too much and let you escape on accident like Kizaru would, or, realize the good in you like Fujitora would. He's a lot more like Akainu. And almost worse in a way because he's trying to prove himself to Akainu. And a character like that is definitely set up to maybe go too far trying to prove himself. which I think could be an interesting plot point if he does, especially right now in Wano, if he does something that Akainu thinks is too far or too much. Because before he did get into Wano, Akainu did warn him to not mess anything up, and if he's going to do anything, just go for Straw Hat Luffy. So it'll definitely be interesting if Oda plays with something like that. And just to talk on his Devil Fruit power a little bit, I've kind of been waiting for this Devil Fruit for a long time. I don't know, a lot of us suspected that Green Bull was going to have a fruit like this, whether it's a specific plant, plants in general, forest, whatever. We expected him to be able to control nature in some way. And so far what we've seen has been pretty cool. I just hope Oda is able to take the Devil Fruit a little bit further, like show us a little bit more advanced techniques, because, you know, sometimes with these kind of powers you think could be really crazy, he doesn't go that far with. Like, specifically, that comes to mind as a kid, you know, for a long time he was just gathering metal up and hitting you or throwing you. So before we saw Kid's awakening and then his railgun, it kind of just seemed like a wasted power that had almost endless potential, which is weird because you see him with Luffy's power or even Law's power, and he's like able to think up these things that you wouldn't even think were possible with that Devil Fruit. So I just hope he does that with a lot of more of the Devil Fruits we are introduced to going forward. And since I do like this idea, I really, really hope his Devil Fruit is, you know, given its full potential. Now, where he'll be at the end of the story, he definitely is not making it through. He's not someone who can exist in the New World. And by New World, I don't mean the second half of the Grand Line. I mean the world with the world government not in charge. Just because he has such radical views that are so against freedom and directly goes against what most of the top people who are vying for the throne right now are going for. You know, someone like Dragon, he's looking to bring down the world government, specifically the Celestial Dragons. And you have Luffy, who's going for freedom. And you have Blackbeard, who's also freedom, but also chaotic freedom. So it's basically anarchy. Whereas Green Bull directly supports most of the ideals of the Celestial Dragons. And he definitely doesn't seem like someone who can be swayed to the other side. But that's basically all I have on Green Bull. So now let's move on to Fujitora. Honestly, I don't really have a lot to say about Fujitora. I think his path is pretty clear. I think there's going to be a defining moment where he basically switches sides. I don't think he stays on the side of the world government and the Marines for the whole time, unless he's working with people who are in like Sword, like Kobe and Drake, and possibly other people. Like, I know a lot of people suspect Garp or Sengoku or even Law are in Sword. So unless he's working along with people like that, I don't see him staying on that side. One thing I would like to see is him team up with Smoker in some way, because they kind of are standing on the same point. You know, they were kind of mirrored in Alabasta and Dressrosa, where the Marines forced Smoker to basically take the achievements that Luffy gained in Alabasta, defeating Crocodile and stopping Baroque Works. And in Dressrosa, they were trying to do the same thing to Fujitora, but he was able to broadcast to the whole world what actually happened and even apologize on the Marines' behalf. So some sort of team up with them would be really cool. And there is one way they could have met or at least become friendly with each other. We know that Tashigi and Smoker took the kids from Punk Hazard to Vegapunk to see if he can help with their illness and their problems that Caesar caused. But we also know Fujitora directly was speaking with and went to see Vegapunk's invention, the SSG, the Super Science Group, whatever they're working on, or whatever they worked on and what they're currently putting out to replace the 7 warlords. My theory is, basically since we've known about it, is that it's some sort of super soldier group or something, where some way they're able to augment a soldier's body, whether it's by giving them artificial devil fruit powers in some way, and it not being Zoan, maybe they're Paramecia or even Logia, and maybe they don't have the same side effects as the Smiles have, where only a few of them even work, and when they do work, you get some sort of weird mutation, not a full Zoan type transformation. So it could be something like that, and it would definitely be cool if Smoker volunteered to be part of this super soldier group, if that is indeed what it is, because they would definitely bring him back to a level where he can compete with some of the higher tiers, not with Luffy or anything, but maybe people like Sanji level, and I think he definitely deserves it. I know a lot of people love him. I definitely love him as a character, and I definitely want to satisfy an ending with him. I don't want him to kind of go at the story without accomplishing or kind of finding any peace with the role he played in the Marines and how the world would be after the world government is taken out. Where do I think he'll be at the end of the story? Honestly, there's definitely going to be some sort of force or governance, or even maybe the Marines still being around, after the celestial dragons are taken down, because you do need some sort of, I don't know how to say it without it sounding bad, I guess. Well, not bad, but without it sounding the same way that it was before. But I do think he can be a high-ranking officer or member of whatever governance Dragon puts in place after the Tenryubito are taken down. And that covers everything I had to say about Fujitora. So before I get into Akainu, I do want to touch on Aokiji for a little bit, or Kuzan. He's no longer an admiral, so he doesn't have the admiral title of Aokiji. So I kind of still getting used to Kuzan. So we know very little of what Kuzan has done after his fight with Akainu on Punk Hazard. We know he is somehow allied or associated with Blackbeard, and we know he definitely has a goal in mind. When he went to Dressrosa, or not Dressrosa, but Punk Hazard and stopped Doflamingo from killing Smoker, he told Smoker that, there's some things you can, there's just some things you can't do as a Marine, but you can also serve the world, I guess, not being a Marine. And that's basically just a confirmation that he's not doing nothing. He's doing something. It's something he wasn't able to do while being an admiral in the Marines. Because at the end of the day, he didn't need to leave the Marines. That wasn't part of the contract or whatever. He didn't want to be under Akainu, who didn't think Akainu could lead the Marines in the way that he wanted them to be led. So after he lost the battle, he decided to, set out on his own and do his own mission his own way. And, there's always been the theories that maybe he's still Marine and he's like a double agent. Some people even think he's a part of Sword, or maybe he's leading up Sword, because he could be doing exactly what Drake did in kind of forcing his way into a Yonko crew and then trying to destroy it from the inside out, as well as just gaining general knowledge while he is pretending to be on the crew. Now, Blackbeard is definitely not an idiot, so I don't think he even trusts Aokiji in any way. We haven't seen anything. We haven't even seen any sort of interaction or panel time between any of them. So I can't say for sure, but Blackbeard is definitely not the type to just trust a former Marine admiral. So the next time we see Aokiji, I do think it's going to be at a low point. I think he's going to be discovered if he is double-crossing Blackbeard. And I think he's going to need to be saved in some way. Not like some rescue arc, but someone will pull up at the perfect timing to stop him from being killed or defeated or imprisoned or whatever Blackbeard would do with him. Probably kill him and take his devil fruit. But knowing so little about him, I don't really have that much to say. I think he'll live on through the end of the story. I don't think he'll play a major role in whatever sort of, power there is in place after the Celestial Dragons are taken down. After this is over, I think he's done. I think he's going to retire and just live a chill life. I think the life he's lived to this point has taken a toll on him. And I think he just wants to maybe right the wrongs he's caused or play his role in the final battle, and then he'll be over with. Now, let's move on to Akainu. And Akainu is very interesting. There's a lot of ways he's going to be taken. I definitely think he's going to have direct conflict with the world government, and the Marines might sort of kind of sway away from the world government's command. But that's definitely not going to change his perspective of the world, his perspective on pirates and, how the Marines and how the world should work. But it'll definitely add interest and add a new dynamic to his character that wasn't there before. Even though I liked him a lot before, and I still do, I think adding some sort of conflict within himself, within who he's actually serving, will actually add a lot of depth to his character and probably make him end up being one of my favorite characters in the story, if that is where Oda takes him. I do think he'll still be in direct conflict with the characters that we are supporting, such as Luffy, the Straw Hats, the Revolutionaries, so on and so forth. So I do expect a final battle where he battles someone like Luffy or Sabo. Luffy still feels some way about him. We know that from Fishman Island. When Jinbei started talking about Akainu, his scar started throbbing. But Luffy isn't really the type of person to hold a grudge. He was able to work alongside enemies he had in the past and impel down without having any sort of conflict or ill will towards them. But with Akainu, it may be a little bit different just because of how severe of a crime he did against Luffy in killing his brother Ace. So for that reason, I always thought Akainu would be an opponent for Luffy. But if Sabo was the one to take on Akainu, I think that would give the satisfaction Luffy needs. Or maybe not the satisfaction, but the closure Luffy needs. Because Luffy and Sabo have the same relationship with Ace. They were brothers. All three of them were brothers. So if one of them were to do it, I think it will be enough where they both get closure. Something I didn't think of until now is the possibility of them being imprisoned after the final battle. And for Akainu, I definitely think that's probably where it'd go if not dying, because there's just not a lot of people who will straight up kill somebody. Luffy definitely doesn't do that. We don't know about Sabo yet. He didn't do it in Dressrosa when he could have killed some people, like the Marine that he crushed his skull. He didn't kill him, but he hurt him really badly when he could have just killed him. As well as Jesus Burgess. So out of those two, I don't think they'd straight up kill him. And then my next person who I think could be a contender for being the final opponent for Akainu is Dragon, because in my opinion, during Marineford, it seemed like there was a bit of history between the two. He always referred to Luffy as Dragon's son. You could say that's just because he doesn't respect Luffy in any way, and he refers to him as Dragon's son because Dragon has made a name for himself as, the world's worst criminal. But to me, it seemed a little bit deeper. It seemed like Akainu maybe had a personal grudge against him. And it would make sense that they could have interacted in some way, because we do know Garp was involved in a lot of the, current big time Marines that are coming up. He mentored a lot of them in a way. And Garp could have definitely brought Dragon around them. Dragon could have been a Marine at one point for all we know. We really we know nothing about Luffy's family. And it's kind of crazy since how far we are in the story. But I do hope that is a relationship that happened in the past. I hope there is something there. And I hope I'm not just looking too deep into it. But yeah, guys, with that being said, I've covered all the Admirals. I don't really have much more to say about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Admirals. What's their future in the story individually and as a whole? Do you think there will be an Admiral class after this one, assuming that the Celestial Dragons are defeated and the Marines stay in place in some form or fashion? Or do you think it's going to be completely abolished? But yeah, more of the individual ones. Where do you think Kizaru is going to do? What do you think Fujitora, greenbull, Aokiji, and Akinu and Akainu is gonna do? But yeah, guys, just remember to like if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment your thoughts on the video. And if you have any tips, I'd love that as well. I'll see you in the next one. Later.